Good morning, everyone. This is Michele Hughes from Ageless and Timeless. Today I have a very special guest, and I know I always say that, but all my guests are incredible. But today's guest is Al Pirnia, and Al and I know each other for about a year now. We met at two conferences, actually, the Fab Mancini conference in Los Angeles and the RadFest conference in Anaheim, and that was a little over a year ago. I think it was September, right, Al?
Actually, I think it's almost 2 years.
Oh my gosh, you're kidding me. Oh my gosh, is that true? It wasn't a year.
Yeah,
I thought it was 2024.
We met at RadFest for the first time, and that was 2 years ago. Not this RadFest, but the year before.
Oh, thank you for correcting me. You see how time flies, right? You're having fun. Well, anyway, welcome to Ageless and Timeless. I know we've been talking about having you, and I was so happy to be your guest on your podcast with Stephanie, who is just amazing. And we had such a good time. And that was early this year, right? February, I think it was.
Yes, that's
so
right.
I'm glad we're now finally getting to reciprocate. So, Al, you have such an amazing background. I want everybody to appreciate all that you've done in over 30 years of being in the functional medicine space, correct?
Yes.
And
not a little less than 30 years.
But a little. I don't want to make you any older, because we're all getting younger, right? At least biologically, we hope. But yeah, no, you have such an interesting background. Biochemistry and chemical engineering at University of London, right? And then you got your MBA from USC.
That's right.
So you have a combination of business and technical, but not technical in the way that we would think would end up in the functional medicine space. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about your journey and how did you end up here where you are today?
Yeah, after I got my MBA, I went into the financial industry. I worked for American Express and Shearson Lehman Brothers with some of the top people, the chairman, the vice chairman, in investments and banking. And it was an incredible experience. It happened by chance. And my father was diagnosed with lung cancer. And that experience just really disgusted me. And I started thinking about our healthcare system. And I wanted to spend the last 2 years that he had with him. So I resigned. And during that time, I spent a lot thinking about what we should do about healthcare. I had that, biochemistry background, and it was during the internet startup phase. And I thought, well, maybe all we got to do is get these physicians to become more integrative, become more proactive. And I thought, let's use the internet to get these physicians to do that. And I raised a bunch of money through venture capital. We were one of the first ones to raise money for this space back then. And unfortunately, at that time, nobody was ready. The internet wasn't ready. Society wasn't ready. And even the physicians weren't ready. And it actually didn't work out. The company didn't work out. But I was one of the first people to raise serious money, so I had access to some of the best people. And in the process, I realized what we really need to do is not make physicians more integrative, but actually address the root cause, which is our food, and getting people to make better food choices, understanding that if we don't get the food right, everything else is Band-Aid. So from there, we started all over again, and been on this journey to bring us to where we are today, where I believe we truly have a roadmap to change the direction of healthcare in this country to becoming proactive.
And hopefully with the new administration and Robert F. Kennedy and his MAHA movement, we will have a lot more support from the government side. Do you agree with that?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I always knew that we would come to a point in this country where everything would be aligned, and we are there now. Everybody is ready. Not just we have RFK and the government supporting this kind of healthcare and trying to address the root cause of chronic illness. But I think society at large is after COVID is open to this kind of healthcare. I just had a conference for CEOs at the Ritz-Carlton Laguna just last weekend, and even CEOs are starting to become interested and open to trying to approach healthcare in a different way. Everybody, I think, is realizing this model of managing symptoms for the rest of your life is not only an unhealthy approach, but it's going to bankrupt everybody, literally everybody, from the government down. So, we're at a point in time where society, practitioners, the government, everybody is ready. And we who have been in this journey for all these years, now is the time for us to have impact.
Well, it is a rather pathetic situation when you see that we are, the leading country in the world. We spend more on healthcare than any other country, and we are last in the Western world anyway, in our healthcare standing. So, what a horrible report card that is, and you could point a lot of fingers. We won't get into all the politics today, but what do you think is the root cause of us not looking at root cause versus symptoms?
Well, I think the foundational problem is twofold. One is just our lifestyle and the food. And then once we start having issues, the healthcare system. We really aren't eating real food. The body is not getting the nourishment and nutrients it needs. And the environment, the stress, the toxicity, it all adds up where we start having issues. And once we have those issues, we basically are then given medication to address the symptom instead of getting to the root cause. At that early stage, it's so easy to fix the root cause, but we don't address it. We don't even care about it. And we start managing it with drugs and medication that has other side effects. And we start this journey of one medication, then two medications, and three medications. And by the time we're 60 or 70, we're on 10 or 15 or 20 medications, never having addressed the root cause and never trying to make amends as to why things are happening to us. So that's why everybody's unhappy. Society's unhappy with this healthcare system. We're spending more money than everybody put together. The physicians aren't happy. Everybody is unhappy. And that's why, it's our time now to change this system from being reactive to being proactive. And that's what we're all doing right now.
I love that. That's such an accurate way to say it, and probably one of the most succinct I've heard. Even just the recent government shutdown and this, insistence on funding Obamacare, or continuing to fund Obamacare, it's just more of the same. We're not addressing the root problem, the cause of the problem. Is why are we the most expensive healthcare system, and we want to continue to increase those payments without addressing what you just said. So, another thing that bothers me a lot, because I watch a lot of sports, is that the advertising, 90% of the advertising on the NFL, as an example, is either fast food or pharmaceutical drugs. So what can we do about that? We're just individuals who obviously have a passionate interest in change and improvement and going proactive, like you just said. But how do you deal with the monolithic system when you're just a single person and you want to make a change? What do you do? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's tough to fight the industrial pharmaceutical food industry. That they have so much money, and they can spend all that money on advertising, and that's part of the problem. People are being educated through the advertising, thinking that this is the model. I'm going to wait till I'm diseased and have somebody manage it. The food they're being advertised is the food they're buying, which in many instances is not helping with their health. So that's why I've come to the conclusion we cannot compete with that kind of resources and that kind of money that's being spent. We have to do this on a grassroots level. And for all these years, I've been trying to do that through functional medicine clinics. So we've built a network of functional medicine clinics. We provide them with tremendous amount of support and resource, introducing them to the latest technologies, helping them having greater success with their practice. But I've come to the conclusion, unfortunately, that we're really not going to move the needle with this one-on-one approach of a clinician seeing a patient one at a time. And we got to go to the masses. And the only way to do that, I believe, is through corporate. Now we have this incredible tax credit that gives the funding for companies to spend on the health and wellness of their employees. And that was the biggest challenge in the past when I tried to do corporate. Every time it would be, I don't have the money, we don't have the budget, and it would be an uphill battle. Now, because of this tax credit, which is just literally found money for companies, they can spend $500 per year per employee and get people to start becoming proactive with their health. We introduce the technologies, we have the programs, we have the events to educate these employees on what they need to do. And that's what I'm hopeful that we can start pursuing to really get to the masses. Because again, we don't have the money to compete with the pharmaceutical and the food industry and advertising. So we got to find another way. That's the way that we're going about this.
Today's podcast is brought to you by Water and Wellness. Water and Wellness is one of the best companies to find purified water. They have a countertop system that I use, and I travel with it all the time. So I would highly recommend you look at that. If you use the Ageless code, you'll get a 10% discount. waterandwellness.com/pages/ageless and timeless. That's how you can order to get the discount. So visit waterandwellness.com or call 877-296-6880 to learn how to take control of your drinking water and learn about all those natural additives to optimize your health and longevity. Al, will that continue if the ACA is terminated? Because there's going to be a vote in December, according to what I've been reading. Yeah. So will that possibly be ending?
Not really. This tax credit is embedded into the tax code, and once something like that happens, it very seldom that it's changed. It really won't have any effect, even if they get rid of Obamacare and the ACA.
Okay, well, that's good to hear. So let's go dive in a little bit more to what your programs are all about, because I think people need to know how much you have accomplished in this space. So, we have Transformation 360, we have the executive conferences, the CEO conferences, we have the medical practitioner conference, that these are both annual, those two. And then you have the WICO score, which we want to talk about, the WICO sounding like FICO, but a score to help people with their wellness. So could you talk about each of those and give us a little more depth about what each one is about and what you hope to accomplish?
Sure. So when I first started, after we started all over again after that debacle with the VCs and that company that we started,
right?
I realized that we got to get the food right, and so we created a program called Transformation 360, which is one of the original mild ketogenic elimination diets where people are eating real food. There's no meal replacements. There are shakes and bars. It's basically a program where you have a breakfast, lunch, and dinner with a protein and a healthy carb. And within 2 days, we get people into a mild state of ketosis. And it's like the twilight zone. After that, people have no hunger, no cravings, great energy, great mental state. They feel fantastic. Most importantly, every marker starts normalizing, and they start understanding food because they're eating real food, a breakfast, lunch, and dinner, protein, and healthy carb at each meal. Now, before we have somebody start the program, we have them complete what we call their WICO questionnaire. WICO stands for Wellness Index Condition Optimal, and it works just like FICO. When you complete this, you get a score. The score over 750 is good. As it goes down, it's bad. So everybody understands if they have a bad score, if it's like 550 or 650, I'm like, oh my God, what's wrong? And then they see that score is a function of how many severe, moderate, and mild conditions they have from these 15 functions that basically determines how well the body is performing. So there's thyroid function, liver function, renal function, the digestion. These are all key functions of the body, and if there is an imbalance there, why you can't lose weight, why you can't keep it off, why you have cholesterol, why you have blood sugar, why you have this, why you have that, many times has to do because there's an imbalance in the function of the body. So the first step that everybody should take is to understand where those 15 functions stand, and we give them a score so they understand if they're doing well or not. And then what we do is we take them through this elimination mild ketogenic diet where for 5 to 10 weeks. What's exciting with that 5 to 10 weeks is one, we start targeting the abdominal fat. So we get rid of the abdominal fat. You lose a lot of inches around your waist, the most dangerous fat on the body. And the blood sugar drops dramatically. Unbelievable drop in blood sugar. And then after 5 or 10 weeks, we redo WICO. The changes are quite dramatic. If there's a lot of severes that disappear, that indicates there's a food intolerance. If there's any severe that stays, indicates a chronic condition. Anything that's a mild or a moderate indicates a nutritional deficiency. And literally with 4 clicks of a button, we create a plan of action to address whatever else is there, making food recommendations, supplement recommendations, lifestyle recommendations, therapy recommendations. And literally that program by itself, Transformation 360, could solve the healthcare crisis in this country. Because if we can give people control over blood sugar and body composition, we would not have a healthcare crisis. They are the two main drivers of disease in this country. Mm-hmm. So that's how we started many years ago, and we licensed thousands of clinics to offer this program, and it works like clockwork. You do it as designed, you have the results. It's not a pill in the bottle solution, it's a process, but you follow that process, amazing results. And that's how we kind of started. But we realized after a while that there's a lot of other technologies practitioners should become aware of. So that's when we started staging what we call the Changing Life and Destiny Conference. It's primarily for functional medicine practitioners and professionals and people, maybe biohackers and people who are really interested in this space of health and wellness. And we showcase in April in Dallas at the end of April 100 technologies. This could be a lymphatic device that really gets the body to detox. It could be a red light system. It could be a technology that gets rid of viruses and cancer cells using a microcurrent. It could be a test that shows what's going on in the microbiome. I mean, it's just unbelievable the number of new technologies that's coming every year that helps practitioners to understand what's really going on inside the body and then make recommendations. So the objective of the Changing Life and Destiny Conference, the end of April in Dallas, is to showcase 100 technologies in 3 days and nothing else. We don't have somebody talking about how they made $1 billion or how they got 10 gold medals. It's just basically showcasing these 100 technologies. And we give a practitioner who comes an incentive to use 25 or more of these technologies by offering them a metaverse clinic. Now, the metaverse, a lot of people have a lot of negative connotations with goggles and Facebook and all the. You don't need any special equipment. You don't need any goggles. But the metaverse, in the manner that we're talking about, is really the only way for us to educate society on what's possible. The practitioner doesn't have the time to sit with every patient that comes in and says, look at this, look at that, and spend 2 hours answering questions. The metaverse can do it better than they can using AI. So we incentivize our practitioners to use 25 of the 100 by giving them a metaverse clinic, which solves their patient acquisition and patient education challenges. And that's the next step of what we created after we started training and licensing these healthcare practitioners on the Transformation 360 program. Now, as I mentioned earlier, now I realize that if we really want to move that needle and have bigger impact on the masses, we have to go to corporate. So we created this, what we call the Changing Life and Destiny Executive Wellness Retreat. We just had it at the Ritz-Carlton Laguna Beach, a 2-day event. Amazing response. Everybody is raving about this. I'm talking about the CEOs and the executives who were there. On Saturday, we just had literally back-to-back presentations between 10 and 20 minutes on almost 30 technologies. And then on Sunday, we had everybody experience those technologies. We had them able to ask questions. We had them to go around and see what's there. But also, we introduced them to the tax credit. So on the one hand, we're saying, here is how we need to move as a society in terms of addressing our health. But here is the money that we can access to spend on ourselves and our employees to help them also take advantage of these technologies. And that was incredibly successful. And in addition to all of that, we offered also a whole bunch of testing. We did brain test, a liver test, a heart test, a DNA test, a gut test, a plastics test, an omega test. All these tests were available so that we could show the executives what's going on inside their body, and more importantly, how we can fix those problems without drugs and medication, getting to the root cause. So that's kind of what our game plan is right now, is to partner our practitioners with local companies, get the executives excited about what's possible, show them the money, and really get them to work with us to take these programs into their company, helping their employees to get onto this kind of healthcare.
And then once you have these companies signed up, do they then have a medical doctor that is advising them on the program?
Yeah, that's what I was saying, is that we partner the company with the local clinic, because now we have the clinics all over the country that work with us.
Right.
All these clinics want to do more. They don't want to do less.
Right.
And they're unfortunately, insurance doesn't cover wellness. It's all about disease management. So if you want to take insurance and solve a problem with our approach, it really doesn't pay. So we got to approach it from a cash basis. So the clinics that we work, they're all cash based. And now with this tax credit, we have the funding to be able to help pay for these services. And that's what we're getting these companies excited about. First, educating them what's possible for them, for their family, what we can do for their employees. And here's the funding to take care of it.
It's really interesting because back around, I think before the dot-com bomb in 2000, in the late 90s, there was a big buy-in by corporations for executive wellness. It was a buzzword in the industry at that time, where so many companies were putting in programs, hiring wellness specialists, and having physical fitness and programs that allowed people to appreciate nutrition more by actual information that was being disseminated. And then I don't know if it was that because of I'm thinking Silicon Valley because that's in my neighborhood, but or at least nearby in the Northern Cal, and then, like, for example, Dr. Patrick Porter was on my podcast last week, and he was saying that the book he just wrote, the Brain Energy Blueprint, he wrote with the woman that used to head up the Google Executive Wellness Program, and he said Google abandoned the entire program. I mean, just abolished it. So what do you think happened between then and now that caused this trough to occur, where now you're almost starting from square one again to get these CEOs to sign on?
Well, I think if you go back 25 years to the year 2000, there was just a beginning then of these executives understanding that there is another option to addressing health and looking at longevity and anti-aging and all that kind of stuff. In fact, A4M, one of the conferences a lot of practitioners go to in Las Vegas every December, is only 30 years old. So all that was relatively new stuff, and the technology was still in formation. It wasn't that advanced. There may have been a little bit of a hype. There may have been a little bit of excitement that wasn't there, like where's the beef type of thing. Mm-hmm. I think that had some of it to do. Now we're so far beyond the conversation that took place there. It is unbelievable what we can do, what we can understand that's going on with people, and how we can fix things before they become serious and get to the root cause. But most importantly, right now, the issue is not executive health. The issue is society health, for me at least. And what we're trying to do is get the CEOs to understand if they want the future of this country to be what they had for their kids, we got to address healthcare. This system will bankrupt everybody. And
Right.
we just cannot ignore it. They cannot ignore it. And what we're saying to the CEO is that you need to get up with us in front of your employees and say, we're on this mission to changing lives and destinies by getting society to become proactive with their health. It's the only solution to this healthcare crisis. And here's the programs. That the problem with corporate wellness for all these years, and the studies were published, I think, 3 or 4 years ago, that $8 billion in corporate wellness is a total waste of time and money because all they do is they test people and they throw information and nobody does anything with that information. So what we're saying is that we're going to not only educate you, but we're going to give you the programs of what we can do to address the issues that is basically getting everybody sick. And the
Mm-hmm.
foundational one is the food, and then getting to the root cause. And we have the programs to take into the companies and get employees excited with this new approach to being proactive instead of reactive.
Mm-hmm. You know, you said something really important here, and that is the corporate buy-in that was a failure. So when once burned, twice shy. So I think a lot of these executives who are you're approaching to be change agents for all of their employees, not like you said, not just executive health, but all employee health. It's getting them to cross the road, even with this $500 per employee tax credit. You still have resistance because people have been burned by trying this and spending a lot of money that didn't, like you just described, didn't work. And it's because they did the programs wrong. So here comes Al and Transformation 360 and the WICO score, and we have and technology. I mean, do you remember at A4M when Peter Diamandis spoke 2 years ago? I think it was 2 years ago. Now I'm a little insecure about my years. I made the mistake with you, but whatever. He was the keynote speaker at A4M. He said when he was talking about AI, and he said, we've accomplished more in the last 10 years than we have in the last 100 years in the healthcare system. So we have that going for us. And as you said, the AI that you used with the metaverse for the programs is hugely helpful for you to go from A to B without failure, which before that happened was disappointing to a lot of these corporations. So Al, take us into a little deeper on these technologies, these 100. First of all, how do you vet them? Because you and I mean, I've looked at your list of podcast guests, because you and I were going to do a reciprocal, if you remember, and so I wanted to see how we overlapped and so forth. But many of those podcast guests have presented their companies at your conference, so that's a daunting task for you and your colleagues to vet those companies so that you don't have anyone that's going to get up there and present their wares and then not ever get to the point of success in their business model. So tell us how you go about dissecting the potential of inclusion in the conference.
Sure. Before I do that, I just want to make a comment on what you just said. One of the reasons why we put on this executive wellness retreat, this 2-day event we just had at the Ritz-Carlton in Laguna, is to educate these CEOs on what is possible. Like you say, that there's been a lot of hype, there's been a lot of miscommunication, misunderstanding, and in terms of what's possible in healthcare, especially in this space. And once they understand the technology that's now available compared to a few years or 10 years or 20 years ago, it really is mind-boggling, and it's very exciting. The response we got from those who attended is just incredible. I mean, everybody is just raving about what we presented, the technology that we presented, the experience they had, and the opportunity to participate and join this movement and help their people. Unfortunately, I don't think the Fortune 500 companies are the target audience for us. We're more focused on those companies that are smaller to medium-sized companies, because then the CEO probably has a much closer relationship with the employees, wants to do what's right for them, and wants to make a big difference, probably why they started their companies in the first place. But as far as going to your question as to how we vet these technologies, we spend a lot of time going to all the conferences. And that's what I tell a lot of practitioners. I said, look, if you wanted to find the best of the best, it's almost a full-time job. You can't have a practice. You'd have to go to, literally dozens and dozens of conferences all over the country. It's a full-time venue that you have to partake. And what we're doing is making that journey and putting that effort into finding what we call the best of the best and showing them at the Dallas event. So we first have to go to all these conferences, be reading up and networking. There's a lot of companies that don't go to conferences. They're relatively new. They've got exciting technologies. They may have a funding issue about spending money going to these events because it does cost a lot. So there's a lot of referrals that also take place for us. So that's the first step, is just knowing what's out there. Now, once you get to understand what's out there and you look at the technologies, you first want to maybe compare them to what you already have. Is it better? Is it the same? Is it different? Because we don't want to try and have a duplicate of the same at the conference in Dallas. You go to A4M, you got probably 4 of the same in that exhibit hall, sometimes even maybe 10 of the same. And you got 500 exhibitors, 700 exhibitors, and you got people constantly being pulled in and out of the exhibit hall. And it's just a very inefficient experience for a practitioner wanting to know what's new, what's exciting, what's there. So why I think a lot of people who come to my conference in Dallas say this is the best conference is because we've designed it where on Friday we don't have an exhibit hall. We just have workshops, literally from 9 till 4 o'clock. We have back-to-back presentations going on in 8 different rooms. Everything is recorded so people can access it afterwards, both on the metaverse and just on the website. And then on Saturdays, Sundays, when we have the exhibit hall. So the idea is that we're not constantly pulling people in and out of the exhibit hall or running to a class and then coming back again. We don't have hundreds and hundreds of exhibitors, many duplicates where people are not really getting a chance to see what's there. And I think that's one of the reasons why everybody keeps saying we've got one of the best conferences, if not the best conference. But the first objective is to find out about everything that's out there. And then the second is to make sure that they are the best and not have a duplicate in our April conference. And then we have a team of experts that we work with to make sure that what we're promoting to our practitioners is truly a technology that they should become aware of.
And are those team of experts medical doctors or a mixture?
It's a combination. Just medical doctors. Many of them don't have the background of the education. I mean, you go to medical school. I don't know if they still don't get any classes on nutrition or
right.
Certainly nothing on functional medicine.
Right.
Functional medicine is a complicated space to be in. It's not easy to get in there, and that's why AI is so important, because AI can now help figure things out better than the practitioner can. And by combining these two, we have an opportunity to really have even greater success with people's health outcome.
So, Al, can you share with us, like, just because this was so recent and Laguna, could you just share with us some of the superstars that presented there? I don't want to put you in a compromised spot, but if you could just single out, some of the rock stars, I think that people would be very interested to hear that.
Sure, I'll just give you 3 that was really amazing to me. The first is this supplement that you can ingest, and it will take a picture of your microbiome.
Oh.
I mean, it will give you incredible insight as to what's going on inside the microbiome. Now, I'm not going to get into the biochemistry of the microbiome, but everything happens there. It's your second brain. I mean, a lot of people think that before you start having Alzheimer's, it's a gut issue.
Right.
So being able to really understand what's going on and having something map out, literally using a video to map out what's going on inside the microbiome is unbelievable.
Well,
That's like
excuse me for interrupting you, but how does this happen in a operational sense? If you take a pill, where is there a camera that?
there's a camera. There's an actual camera there, and videoing everything.
Okay, so what? So okay, I'm a little confused because that camera, what's it made of, and how do you ingest it, and how does it become?
Yeah,
Uh,
you just it's a supplement. It's just like a capsule. You ingest it, and ultimately it gets eliminated. It just comes out. It's not in any way going to hurt anybody. It's FDA approved. It's FDA cleared.
and,
It's not
and
like a new thing that is experimental. It's just a fantastic technology.
And
Um,
how does the data get recorded so that the doctor and the patient get to learn?
It's virtual. It's just like you and I talking virtually. It's all virtual. I can get you the information. I'm not the expert. I didn't develop this,
Yeah,
but
I would
it's
love to. I'd love to know more and have the CEO on my podcast.
they would love to. They would love to. They'll be at
Okay.
my conference next April, and they it's a relatively new technology. I wasn't aware of it, but that is a game changer. The second one, another game changer, is has to do with stem cells. Stem cells. Everybody has heard about stem cells. I'm sure even consumers have. And there's a lot of controversy around stem cells. Number one, most people over a certain age, their stem cells is not going to be that effective, and they have to get it from somewhere else. So there's legal issues, there are ethical issues, there's cost issues, and even when you do it, many times people don't notice anything. So it's a kind of a flip of a coin. Now there is a new technology that can activate dormant stem cells. So when we're born, we have these stem cells that are never activated. It's just dormant, and this technology actually activates it, and the results is incredible. What can take place is literally miraculous. So we had that technology introduced.
Excuse me, was that STEM regen? Was that Christian Pope?
No. STEM regen is is helping your existing stem cells to work better.
Right.
This is activating dormant stem cells. The problem with trying to get your own stem cells, if you're after a certain age,
Yeah.
you just don't have the stem cell load and the
Right.
generation that you need to have a huge impact. STEM Region is a great product, and everybody should take it, and it will help. But this is activating dormant stem cells that have never been used,
Mm-hmm.
and it uses a laser to do that. And the immediate response, addressing conditions that many consider irreversible, is incredible. And it's a brand new technology that is right now being launched. So that's another one. The third one I'll just quickly touch on is a company that has this microcurrent with a very unique signal that they've created. And it's been around for about 5 years. And it basically kills viruses and cancer cells. They have been having amazing success on all counts. People with cancer. I personally experienced it with my son this weekend. My son suddenly had some kind of virus, and he was just gone. I mean, he just couldn't get out of bed. He just was sleeping 24/7, and literally, and he had a sore throat. They have this probe that you can put in your mouth, and literally in 15 minutes, his sore throat disappeared. And then he slept on it, and he recovered almost to 90% the next day. And then the second day, it was gone. He was no longer sick. I mean, there's things like this that everybody should become aware of.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we showcase at our conferences, whether it's at the executive or at the practitioner conference in Dallas. These are the kind of technologies that is going to revolutionize healthcare in combination with AI.
Mm-hmm.
And the challenge is our traditional healthcare system doesn't even know this stuff exists.
Of
And
course.
if they even look at it, their first response is this is hocus
Yeah.
pocus or
Yeah.
whatever they want to call it.
Yeah.
And they don't even want to give it the time of
Well,
day.
they want to see a scientific. First, they want to know if it's FDA approved. Then they want to know if there are scientific studies and where they were published, and are they legitimate ones and not just being sponsored by the company itself, which we know happens in the allopathic world, right? When we see a lot of these studies about drugs.
Yeah.
So yeah. So what, if you don't mind, what are the names of those three companies, if you remember?
Um, the actually the one that does the video, the microbiome, is a very difficult name. I don't remember that name.
Okay.
The other one is biophysics that does the stem cells, and the other one for the viruses and the cancer cells is ActMed, ACTTMED, ActMed.
Abdomen. And are these, is that like a PEMF bed that
No,
they,
it's not a PMF. It's a microcurrent with a very unique signal that
oh,
they've patented.
okay. Well, I'd love to put it in the show notes so our viewers can have a chance to go and look at those companies independently of us talking about them today. So when we are offline, I'll get those from you.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it now personally in action. Here's what's really amazing with this company. The founders, owners of this company, two people called Mike and Rudy, um, they could be selling this for, I don't know, tens of thousands of dollars. They have no interest in making money on this. All they want to do is help society address, whatever issues they have. The
Wow.
price of this is a joke. I mean, it's the least expensive product I've seen in our industry, and it literally can save people's lives.
And
Uh,
what is the price?
it's less than $3,000.
Oh, wow. And it's a home unit. They
It's
can
a home
use.
unit. You basically use it anywhere and anytime you want. And I've never seen anything have such immediate impact on people.
Wow. So let's go to the opposite side. Has there ever been any of the presenters that have not met your expectations after the fact? And if I don't, you don't need to name names, but I'm just curious to know if that ever happens.
Uh-huh.
I mean, with 100 at your big conference and 30 at your little conference, that's a lot of companies that have to do everything right in order to meet the standards of excellence that you require, of course, for your clients. I just imagine knowing the venture capital uh, format of 10 companies that there's going to be one superstar home run and then maybe three or four living dead and the rest are failures. So, why is it that, so many startups fail? I mean, that's, we both know the history of that, even with your own experience with your startup. So,
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I can't recall a company to say that this was a mistake. We do a lot of research before we invite a company. We're always sold out as far as we only have 100 booths, and everybody who comes to our conference wants to come back. We
yeah.
always try to bring new ones, so we don't have a problem getting exhibitors. So we are very careful to only invite those that have something of value. So I
Mm-hmm.
can't tell you that there is a company that kind of bombed out or was a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
But I just to tag along on your venture capital and so many companies going out of business. We actually this past April had an investor meetup before we opened the conference on Friday. Usually it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday in
Right.
April, the last weekend.
Right.
And like I said, Friday is just workshops. Friday night, we have a by invitation only black tie dinner for about 500 people. And then
Right.
Saturday, Sunday, we get about 1,500 visiting the exhibit hall. But this year, on Thursday, we actually had an investor meetup for 10 companies. Out of the 100 companies, we took 10 that wanted to raise money.
Right.
And we invited investors to come in. We had a panel like Shark Tank. everybody gave a 7-minute pitch with a deck, and then the panel would ask questions, and anybody in the investor audience could ask questions. And what we told the investors is that, the problem with the way that VCs and all these guys are investing is that they listen to the pitch, they ask a few questions, they'll look at the financials, they look at the background of the owners and the founders and the operators, see what they've done in the past, and they make a decision. And probably 8 of those companies go out of business, 9 will maybe survive, and then the 10th one is they make some big money on. Well, that's a kind of ridiculous numbers statistically in terms of trying to make money. And I come from the investment background before I got into this. So I thought, what if they on Thursday they would be able to discover these companies? Everybody's there giving a pitch, just like everybody does. And then on Friday, that investor could go and listen to understand the details behind the technology they're really investing in. Because on Friday, we just have workshops. And then on Saturday, they can see how the end user gets excited with that technology that's being promoted. And in the process, see management in action. So we came up with that model, and we kind of introduced it to the investor community. And everybody said, hey, this is fantastic. This sounds great. And it worked out really, really good. So we're going to continue that next April, the Thursday before the conference opens. We're going to have another 10 companies pitch and invite investors to come. And that way, hopefully, they can make better decisions. So the numbers isn't 8 going out of business, but
Right.
A lot more success.
Well, just being able to pick those 10 companies out of the 100 is a challenge in itself. So how do you make that decision of which companies are going to make the cut for the 10 percenters?
That's a good question. I mean, it just involves us to. The good news is we know a lot of these companies in terms of what's the product, who are the people, and where they're at with their business. And the good news is that they're all in revenue. They all have proof of concept. They just wanted to go to the next level. And in fact, all the investors were saying these companies were incredible that presented. Some were looking for a lot of money. Some were looking for a lot of money, but they all were fantastic in terms of what they had. The challenge was that most of them didn't know how to present, and most of them didn't know how to present their financials. So that's what I'm trying to do this time, is to make sure that we kind of coach them on how to present, and especially showing their financials in a way that gets people to understand what's there and what's going to potentially happen. But the way that we pick them is we just look at the companies. We find out who. We already know that the 100 companies are great companies. We wouldn't have them there if they weren't. The question is, 1, do they want to raise money? 2, what are they going to do with that money? And whether it all makes sense. So that's part of what we try to bring value to those who are coming as investors, is to say we've got some unique companies here. If you're interested in this space, this approach of Thursday discover, Friday evaluate, Saturday validify is a much better, deeper dive to make a decision than the way you're doing it right now.
Like I said in the beginning, you're doing so much, and you have been for so long, that it's really kind of daunting when you think about the big picture and the challenges that you face, and how you then bring it down to the minutia of execution and success. So I just want to applaud you. And of course, I'm very fond of you, so that we start with a very strong foundation of mutual admiration. Well, I hope it's mutual.
Of course it's mutual. I appreciate what you're doing, getting the word out there.
And actually, if you remember, I made some inquiries for you for those 10 companies. And I remember I called Harut in Florida. He wasn't ready to raise money, but I do remember that I did make a couple of inquiries. A lot of our contacts are overlapping, as we have discovered. When you had Del Bigtree on, I admire all that he's been trying to do with Maha, Did you listen to that podcast when I think it was Stephanie interviewed him? Or did you follow any of the reactions after that? When he presented his vision?
Well, we had Dell speak at our conference this past April.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, we actually recognized Dell at the black tie, and he gave a fantastic speech there. Um, he's a very unique person. He's really in this for the right reason. He obviously
Right,
has his beliefs as far as vaccines is concerned. We're not into the vaccine stuff. That's not our wheelhouse. We're all
right,
about trying to address
right,
chronic illness and getting to the root cause of why everybody's getting sick. That's a whole different
right.
space that I really don't know enough about to participate and address. But Dell's very passionate about the vaccine, as is RFK, and he did a very good job of explaining it all at our conference, and I think everybody was very excited about what he presented.
But his vision for the future is aligned with your
Oh
vision
yeah, no,
of,
I mean,
root cause
yeah, I
versus.
mean, RFK, Dell, all these guys from Maha, they all we're all on the same page as far as we need to address the food. We need to address chronic illness. We need to address toxicity and environmental toxins. These are all at the root cause
Right,
of why everybody's getting sick. And so,
right,
that's why I'm saying we're at a point in life in this country where all the stars have aligned for us to have impact. And this is it.
right,
This is it. If we don't do it now, we're never going to do it.
right. And this has been going on far too long. It's the time has come for change. And when you're a change agent and you look at the landscape and you see the history and all the mistakes, I guess you'd say, the false starts. But folly. I mean, let's face it. I don't want to be political, but you look at, like you said earlier, the pharmaceutical and the food industries are the ones that hold a lot of power with their advertising and their political donation support. So we need to get through all that gray matter. And certainly we have more opportunity now and people like you doing what you're doing. It's one. John F. Kennedy said, 1,000-mile journey starts with one small step, and here you are with your vision. So if you could leave us today with one message for the future, like what do you see in 10 years, 2035? What do you see, and how do you see yourself playing a role in what you?
Well, I think that
I guess, I mean, the question is, what is your vision for 2035? What do you see on the landscape?
I think that functional medicine will be the focus of society to become proactive instead of reactive. I think that everybody will have an avatar on the metaverse that allows them to learn about all these technologies in ways that they can't do it right now. They'll have an AI uh, expert avatar of their practitioner that will provide all the answers and to their questions, and they will be very proactive in being able to correct everything, literally being checked, if not quarterly, at least annually, without having to go somewhere and without having to spend a lot of money because everything will be automated and AI driven.
Mm-hmm. The other thing that we need to do is education, right at the grassroots. I mean, right in the medical schools. If we don't change the dynamic of the educational system, these doctors that never really, like you said, never really get any education in nutrition. I mean, you don't want to just focus on the ones that make the transition, like you have, well, like the medical doctors you and I know, that have gone from being allopathic practitioners to functional medicine, basically the composite of A4M, right? Those people have made a switch for many, many reasons. And I find interviewing them on my podcast that a lot of the common denominators of their transition has been personal challenges, health challenges. And
Yeah.
that, but we can't rely on that. We need to get deeper into the allopathic model to make changes right there where it's going to be affecting the masses of the medical system. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think, we live in a capitalist system. I think the market is going to force this.
Mm.
We're seeing a tremendous amount of movement by physicians to want to learn about functional medicine and get into this space of being more proactive. And I think that's going to have a huge impact. I think that the use of AI and all these technology we've been talking about is also going to drive this, so that access to this kind of information will be a lot more feasible, financially viable, and accessible. So I'm hopeful. I think if we have 3 years at least with RFK hopefully still there, and and society open to this alternative approach to looking at being proactive to really move the needle. And if we can do that, I don't think anything can stop that direction, because it's true healthcare and people aren't going to be fooled anymore.
Al, another industry we didn't touch on is the insurance industry, and how important that's going to be for the buy-in for functional medicine, that there will be more and more preventative protocols that are covered. Because, I have so many people I want to refer to my functional medicine doctors, but the first question they ask me is, do they accept insurance? And, we both know that not everybody can afford functional medicine and concierge medicine. So there needs to be a movement for the masses, and insurance companies hold the keys to the safe on that one, that they will, end up
Yeah.
being more open-minded about covering for preventative care.
Yeah, I don't know how quickly that's going to happen, because really these three industries are very intertwined: the pharmaceutical, the food, and the insurance industry. They all kind of
Correct.
feed off of each other.
Correct.
But there are, the marketplace is very dynamic. There are right now companies that do shared funding, which they don't like to call it insurance, but it's really the same, but just have to legally call it separate something
Right.
else. And the concept is that you can reduce your premium significantly, at least by 50% or more. But it's only really going to cover more of the catastrophic stuff.
Right.
So the idea is that use that savings to stay well and have that insurance concept there if you have some cancer suddenly or some accident, and that's already there. A lot of companies are even looking at shared funding to offer their employees.
Right.
Anybody that is in our space, meaning they're proactive with their health, they're trying to do this kind of preventative medicine and see functional medicine docs, they all should go onto health sharing, because that's going to save them a lot of money, and they could use some of that savings to stay well and hopefully not ever have to deal with the catastrophic.
But if you're for the elderly, for over 65, and you're on Medicare, you don't have that option.
You don't have that option, but you don't also have the huge costs that right now health
Yeah.
insurance. I mean, these for 24 million Americans that are going to lose these subsidies,
Yes.
having double or triple their premium. I don't know who and how they're going to pay for that.
How they're going to do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, before we close, because I just got signaled, I want to be sure to tell everybody that you've offered something very generous. So could you just tell us what that is, so I have it in your words, not mine?
Sure. We have a conference the end of April, April 24th, 25th, 26th, the last weekend in April in Dallas, Texas. It's a 3-day event. We showcase 100 technologies, and we're giving your viewers a special offer if they want to attend. When they go to make the purchase to join us, if they enter ageless 50, they can get a 50% discount. And they'll be able to learn about 100 technologies. They'll be able to participate in all the presentations that are being given on Friday. They'll be able to go to the exhibit hall and see what's new and exciting. So that's our offer to your.
And then how do they register?
They just go to changelifedestiny.com, changelifedestiny.com, and when they come to make the purchase, they enter the code and they'll get the discount.
And what is the cost just without the 50%?
It's $599.
Okay, but that includes, I mean, that doesn't include your hotel, but that includes all the exhibit hall, the 3 days. It includes 3 days of the conference.
It is 3 days of the conference, which we have all those presentations taking place on Friday. It has all the exhibitors Saturday, Sunday, and all the recording, so that if they miss a presentation, they can access it later.
And you said it was in Plano, wasn't it? The last one?
It's just north of Dallas. It's called Plano. It's a beautiful hotel there. Everybody loves this hotel, so that's why we keep going back.
Right. What's the name of that hotel, Al?
It's the Hilton in Granite Park.
Oh yeah, I remember now. Okay. All right. Well, we've been, as always, we can talk forever, but I really appreciate everything you've done today and sharing some very important information on some of these companies that are at the cutting edge that people wouldn't ordinarily hear about.
Yeah. Well, thank you for what you do, Michele. Getting the word out is half the battle, and appreciate all the effort you make in that line. And
well, I in addition to when I met with you at Radfest and Fab, I now write a monthly column for Top Doctor magazine. So that's John Hyland. You met this last weekend, right? The publisher.
Yes.
Yeah. So, so I work with John, and I know you're always looking for new technologies and new people, and I'm always there for you to, contact if you want referrals. But Top Doctor Magazine is also where I feature a lot of those same people.
Fantastic. Well, congratulations. I look forward to seeing you next April.
Well, I think I'll see you in December, right, at A4M?
Oh, yeah, A4M. That's right. We'll see each other there.
Okay. Well, thank you again, and you take care, and take care of yourself.
You too.
You work very hard, so you need to watch yourself and make sure you pace yourself correctly, right?
I will.
Okay, Al. All right. See you in December.
Take care.